My freshman year proctor, Leo Hockford, once said, "You have a unique accent." After I asked, he offered that my accent couldn't easily be defined. It wasn't simply Chinese or American, refined or crude. Puzzling over why, I decided to trace its origin. Ever since I was a kid, I have been collecting snippets of my parents' childhood, from mom, dad, and grandma stories over the dinner table, to complete this giant puzzle of where I came from. For as long as I could remember, my parents would take me to our hometown in the countryside every summer, when the asphalt highway gives way to the concrete pavement and then gravel roads and finally bumpy dirt paths. We would be back in rural Anhui and Jiangsu, where unassuming homes scattered among canola fields and rice paddies. When Mom was young, she would spend nights studying under the kerosene lamp and wake up the next day with a nose filled with soot. Grandpa passed away when Mom was just finishing up middle school, and Grandma was faced with this repeatedly asked question, "Why would you send a girl to high school?" She still did, despite the pressure from the whole village. For my father, on rainy mornings, his shoes would be soaked heavy, caked with mud, and his walk to school would become a trudge. His nearly empty stomach would barely provide enough energy. Somehow, they've made it through and became the first college students in their village. And these memories turned out to be a gift I wasn't able to unwrap until later when I came to Westtown. My parents were the first-generation immigrants to the city of Shanghai, and Shanghainese take great pride in their more refined vernacular. For me, I never learned to speak Shanghainese as a kid. Instead, I spoke a mixture of rural dialect and Mandarin, raw and inelegant. My uncouth mixture of accents felt out of place. I faced scrutiny when I answered teachers' questions with my best attempted Mandarin, and as little as I was, I felt different, and I took note that language was the key into a community. When I came to Westtown 4 years ago, the shifting of context yet again highlighted the thickness in my tone, this time in English. My accent was gritty. I brought along with me my hometown-crafted, explosive consonants and extended vowels, but it was in freshman English class, the outsider in literature, the very role I occupied both in literature and in this foreign land, when I realized for the first time that my voice mattered. I wasn't just encouraged to contribute to discussions in class, but expected to. Yet, I stumbled over my accent, messily straining words together to share my ideas. Terribly embarrassed, I was determined to erase my awkwardness and to speak with an authentic American accent. Luckily, I've been surrounded by many authentic voices. At Westtown, we gather weekly in the meeting house in purposeful silence, which is only broken when messages are shared. Here, I've realized that American accents are varied just like Chinese ones. I remember Prof. Monica once shared in her Puerto Rican accent that she was choked with tears when, during the past presidential election, her daughter asked if they would be deported. I remember Trey told an anecdote in his Tennessee accent about the generosity back at home. A lady, a stranger, who brought a tray of brownies from her house to Trey and his friends playing basketball. I remember during a late-night conversation with my roommate, Gio, he shared, in his Harlem accent, his admiration for his mother. Through listening closely to the stories in my community, I've realized the authentic American accent is impossible to define, and the importance of our words lies far less in how we say them than in the meanings they hold. My primary school was a 30-minute walk away. My middle school was an hour drive, and my high school is a 14-hour plane ride. For me, growing up meant leaving home. But it turned out that it was only when I left home 8,000 miles away that I have come closer to understanding to both the grit and the sand in my accent and the soot and the mud in my family's shared memories. Though inelegant, it reminds me of my story. At this place where my difference was highlighted, and then valued and celebrated, I have finally unpacked the gift my parents have left me. It is a reminder, composed of my parents' childhood memories, that grounds me, humbles me. It reminds me to defend passion with diligence. I wish I didn't have to wait 2 years before I could tell Leo that my accent really isn't my accent after all. It is the mixture of the accents of every person I have ever talked to. I pick up small phrases and intonations from my friends and teachers, and they've merged to become my accent. If you think about it, it is the same with our most trivial habits as well as our most profound thoughts. When you spend more time with people around you, you become more like them. And for the past 4 years, I have been picking up bits and pieces of people around me, and before I noticed, they have become very much a part of me. In the last fleeting moments we share, it is at least a bit reassuring to know that I would be carrying bits and pieces of each of us as I leave, to carry you in my accent, my habits, and the ways I think, and that is fulfilling. From rural China to West Town, I've found my accent bearing marks people and places have left on me. It is quirkily nuanced, perfect in its imperfections. Although these marks are sometimes confusing for me and unexpected to strangers, they are my story. It is eternally growing and evolving from the first word until the very last. Thank you.